Welcome to News with a View, a Fat Cat production. Hosted by me, John A. Costa, an expert on nothing, which makes me fully qualified to make commentary on news stories. Today is September 10th, 2025, and this is episode 128. You'll be able to find my information right up here when I edit it. Or you can go to youtube.com at John Fatcat, and that is Fatcat, F-A-T-K-A-T, cat with a K. And we'll have that up there for you. Today, we're going to speak about what, in my opinion, Trump should do with what's going on with ICE and people trying to hurt them and vandalize their vehicles and just breaking the law. Second thing will be Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson blames Republicans for Chicago's troubles. All right. On the Colbert, he had a standing ovation for Sotomayor, justice, who made probably one of the most ignorant statements a Supreme Court justice has made. All right. CNN, Van Jones tries to excuse the killer in the subway incident, light rail murder in Charlotte. That happened August 22nd. And then I'm going to discuss some of the Supreme Court rulings and some of the district court rulings that, boggle the mind. All right, let's jump right into Trump and what I think is going on. President Trump must order federal troops to protect federal ICE agents in New York. Having them riot and vandalizing federal government property, not to mention the threats made against agents acting legally and within our laws by either threats made and against them either by foreign agents, undocumented illegals, and their sympathizers is a classic definition of an invasion and insurrection. That's what it is. The fact that undocumented illegals are being directed and organized and financially supported by any agency or persons not affiliated with our immigration department in itself is a criminal act. It is aiding and abetting and giving aid and comfort to our enemy. Those mayors, governors, and elected officials who use taxpayers' money to facilitate those criminal acts of not providing ICE agents, citizens of the United States, and those agents being located in New York or any other state territory, police protection, and if needed, assistance in stopping or preventing a criminal action against ICE agents, they should be arrested and charged as an accessory to any crime committed against ICE. And I actually mean that, folks. The 10th Amendment does not mean that states have no duty to protect any citizen from injury while they perform their duties under the federal government legal rights to enforce our immigration laws in any state. States can make the argument that they don't have to carry out the orders of the federal government. That's on very sketchy ground to begin with, that whole notion. But that doesn't mean that they don't have to protect citizens. Any less than giving full protection of ICE agents is a dereliction of any state's duty for the protection of its citizens, whether guests in the state or while acting on behalf of the federal government. They are agents and they are to be protected, if not by our own troops, but by police. I don't see why this is such a problem. I'm adjusting my audio over here. I don't see why that's such a problem for the Democrats. The lawless actions we are seeing will be why the Supreme Court will agree with the administration's claim of an invasion and insurrection as to allow the president to enact laws pertaining to such. Yeah. These actions being taken by the Democrats and their supporters is going to make the case for the president. You don't even see it, you're so stupid. Late night television, daytime talk shows who support lawless activities will be singled out as not being protected as a news outlet just reporting events, but as agitators who are encouraging people to act against the laws of the United States. Oh, that is coming. That is coming. And you know what? Your Colberts and your Jimmy Kimmels, they're all gearing up for that. That is what they want. They want to say, see, they're stopping us from talking. No, they're stopping you from agitating. You goad people on. And America is tired of it. The Democrats pushed this on all of us, and now Americans, through our voting, demand an end of no borders, the end of crime, and the use of our tax dollars being used for anyone but citizens. We elected Donald Trump because he said he was going to stop this. And that's what he's going to do. And if you support anything other than that, the legal actions of the government, you too will find yourself behind bars. And that's not a blow to democracy. That is a promise of democracy. You can't do what you've been doing. You can't incite and then hide behind freedom of the press. You're not going to be able to do it. You're going to be called out. And a lot of these big networks, their lawyers are telling them that. They're telling them that. Hey, fun and game is over now. Now we can get in trouble. And if you continue to do it, they're going to get tough with you, and to the point where you won't have a business anymore. The FCC, it's a privilege. It's not a right. It's a privilege. So, you Democrats, liberals, progressives, communists, conscientious non-voters, you better realize what you're doing is not going to be tolerated that much longer. That when you find ways to skirt the law, we're going to find ways to focus those laws. And like a magnifying glass and the sun, we're going to focus it. And we're only doing this because you have forced us to this point. And instead of working with the president, you worked against him. Actively. Actively worked against him. You deserve everything that's coming your way. Everything that's coming your way. All right, 10 minutes of that. And I could go on for hours. But this is using facts. This is not a rant. This is not biased. I'm giving you facts, actual facts. Chicago mayor blames gun problem on red states. Isn't that interesting? I'm going to just try to get this to do a little bit more enhancing on my audio. I think I'm going to go like that. Get it out of the mud. And Brandon Johnson had the nerve to blame red states, Republicans, for his state's crime. Mayor Johnson made the ridiculous claim that red states is why Chicago's crime is so high, citing interstate gun sales and transportation as his reason. Not that the police can't arrest criminals or search known areas for illegal activities. Not that the federal government's spending tens of billions of dollars on Chicago education programs with no improvement on education or lowering the crime rate. That had nothing to do with it, right? Nothing whatsoever to do with it. That was just nothing. Not that Chicago citizens are the people causing the crime. No, it's the Republicans. It's their fault. And I say over and over again, comments like Johnson and many others are stating as to why crime is high in their cities will be the meat and potatoes of the Republican election ads in 2026. I'm telling you, those ads are going to show scenes that make Gaza look good. And they're all in blue cities. You have companies moving out. Can't do business there. Won't do business there. Stupid mayors of, Summer of love. American voters have seen the truth, know the truth of why crime is so high in many cities. And you blame the color red when we all know what color is the problem. We all know what color is the problem. Red is not the problem. The color red is not the problem. People in a lot of these cities are crying to Trump for help. And Trump must act. You can't have cities that have the crime rates that you guys are having and not think there's business as usual. And that is what the Democrats want. They want crime to be business as usual. To make you think that's normal. Well, crime happens and, no. No. Democrats, you are so far gone that there is no bringing you back. There's no bringing you back. And when I say Democrats, I want to be plain and want to be as simple as I can be here. I'm talking about Democratic leadership. I'm not talking about the Democrat that lives down the street. But the Democrat that lives down the street is just to blame because they keep electing these people. And I'm going to tell you, in 2026, I don't see you people coming back for a long, long time, regardless of what your Yahoo polls say. And Carvel. Has that idiot been right since Clinton left office? And you listen to him and you give him media attention. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. The mayor of Chicago blaming the Republicans for the lack of leadership in their city and in their state. Governor of Illinois. Well, do you want to leave? Get out. Get out. You want your business out of here? Get out. Well, they're in one of the worst deficits of any state. But he doubles down on his craziness. And New York is just as bad. I'll get into that in a minute. Hochul is the biggest piece of shit out there today, other than Senator Kaine and Walz. They're all up there in the toilet of filth. Now that is a bias. But am I wrong? All right. It just cannot continue. I can't even call them Democrats. You're not Democrats. Not the Democrats of yesterday. I don't know what you are today. Well, I know what you are. You're nuts. But you're dangerous. You're dangerous to America. You're dangerous to the democracy of America. You're dangerous to the republic. You have district judges that are defying the Supreme Court because when they disagree with them. And so we don't have to obey them. Because, again, Democrats, we know better. We know what's best for you. So, in that sense, democracy and the republic and stuff, that doesn't matter because we're looking out for you. Right? Just like COVID. Can't go shopping. Got to stay in your houses. Can't see your family. Can't go to churches or your religious services. Have to take this experimental drug. If you want to work, if you want to keep your job, if you want to send your child to school. But we're all about the freedom of choice. My body, my right. I can be a girl if I want to, and you must accept me as a girl. You must, or I could have you arrested. But we have a democracy. We love a democracy. The Democrats believe in democracy so much, they have primaries. And let their voters and supporters select the person they want to run for president. Oh, hold it. Yeah, what happened with that? Why wasn't Joe Biden on the ticket? Oh, yeah, no, he stepped down until he says he was forced out. And now you have the loyal Harris coming out and bad-mouthing Biden, that it was disastrous, that he was the one that made the decision on whether or not he should run or not. But we love democracy, right? We love democracy. We're all about democracy. We're all about rights. As long as it's the rights I tell you you're allowed to have, and you follow my rights, that I tell you what they are. Right, Democrats? We have your number. And your number's up. Come 2026, your fall will be even greater. Your fall will be even greater. And I, for one, can't wait. That's right, Bob, in New York. I can't wait. But because I believe in our process and I believe in our democracy, I'll wait till 2026. I won't burn anything or loot or ask for social justice as my excuse for robbing and looting. I won't do any of that. All right. Another 10 minutes on that. Justice Sotomayor earns a standing ovation on Colbert. Supreme Justice Sotomayor not Sonia, but Sonia Sotomayor's latest damning dissent earned rapturous applause from the Late Show audience. When she had said, "We should not have to live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, or appears to work in a low-wage job, rather than stand idly by while our constitutional freedoms are lost. I dissent." Might be one of the most ignorant comments made by a Supreme Court justice ever. And you say, you're just saying that because you're a MAGA. I'm not a MAGA. I am a conservative. I'm a federalist. But I'm not a MAGA. My reasoning to say this is the most ignorant? This is why most Democrats who read and support such an ignorant statement made by any Supreme Court justice just does not get how wrong her statement is. We now live in a country that is forced to take such actions because of those elected who were supposed to uphold our laws, but willfully ignored them and worked with other groups to subvert and dilute our citizen voting rights, the bloc, and the true intent of voting by citizens. We are in this mess because Democrats allowed the illegals to enter America unchecked and undocumented for the sole purpose of gaining votes in states, for cities, state elections, and then federal elections, because that was the progression. Democrats pushed that non-citizens, illegals, be allowed to vote, be counted on federal census rolls, so as to increase the citizen population, and I got citizen population, in an effort to increase the numbers in the Congresses of the House of Representatives. That is why they brought them in. To cook the books, to stack the table, to game the system. The Democrats are the biggest threat to our democracy and republic. Now, just look at what Tim Kaine stated, as reported last week. Shocking, but hey, these are Democrats. During a Senate hearing on presidential nominees, U.S. Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat, Virginia, likened the American idea that rights come from our Creator to the ideologies of the Iranian regime. His words reveal a troubling misunderstanding of our nation's founding philosophy and risk confusing the principle that sustains liberty here. All men are created equally. All men are equal, right? The Bill of Rights. And Kane is saying the notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the Creator, that's what Iran government believes. So he is saying that the Bill of Rights is like Sharia law. Again, I've said this earlier about that comment that he made back in the day. They are the worst type of person in power. Because our system of government absolutely has a separation between church and state. And what does that mean? Most of you people do not know what the separation. They can't have anything to do with religion. No, that's not true. You can't have a Christmas display in any government building. No, not true. Now you could have those regulations, but that is not what that means. It meant that when they were writing the bill, that they didn't want to have a sponsored state religion like the Church of England. That's all that meant. If a government state wanted to have a Kwanzaa display, they could have a Kwanzaa display. They could have a menorah. They could have, what to do during Ramadan. You could have a Christmas display. You could have Jesus. You could have Moses. You could have Mohammed. You could have Buddha. You could have all that. Doesn't mean you can't have it. It's just that the state cannot sponsor any of them. And when they go, well, they do. They have, in God we trust on our coins. Well, that went back to the Civil War on coins, and then that became law on our currencies in like 1957 or something like that, after the McCarthy hearings on communism. And, I don't, I don't believe in that you need that on the money. But in God, it doesn't say what God. And in the Judeo-Christian and Islamic world, our gods are all the same. There's just one God. And that we all believe in one God. We've had different prophets. And of course in Judaism, their issue is that if Jesus was the Son of God and was in the Holy Trinity, where he was the Messiah, why didn't he complete his tasks? And I mean, the question, there's a lot of questions for the Jewish faith on why Jesus was just a man, a great man, a powerful rabbi, a Jew. But Messiah, and they believe when the Messiah does come, then all the troubles of the world will be taken care of. And, you know, the same thing with Islam. They believed in Jesus. They said Jesus was a prophet. And then they had their own prophets that brought their people into the light. But they're still waiting too. But that's all that meant. All it meant was separation of church and state, was that the government would not have a sponsored religion. So, Tim Kaine, you stinking pile of manure. And all the things that I'm talking about, that I've talked about in the last 2 weeks, if you haven't joined, if you haven't been part of this, please do. You could go through. And there are instances where I've said, hey, the day before I said something and I was wrong. I re-looked it, I researched what I had reported on, and it wasn't quite there. So I will backtrack if I'm found to have made a mistake, or if someone had said, hey, what you said over here is not kosher. And then I look it up, except in the case of Bob in New York. And then, you know, I'll fix it. Or at least address it to say, no, I'm correct. Here's the information. And just because you don't believe it doesn't mean that that's incorrect. So, yeah. Join my channel, John Fat Cat, cat spelt with a K, at Yahoo, at YouTube. You can go John Fat Cat at gmail.com, and that's the email. You could also go to Fat Cat Production, cat spelled with a K.com, and then link across all my channels that I have. And we'll put them up right here. They'll be there. There's no harm. There's no harm in dialogue. So, come spend an hour with me. Come spend an hour with me. And it seems like I'm beating up on the Democrats today. That's because I am. All right. CNN, Van Jones. And this has to do with the murderer, the killer, who stabbed the Ukrainian female refugee to death on a light rail system in Charlotte. This man was hurting. CNN political commentator Van Jones attempted to explain the brutal killing of a Ukrainian refugee in cold blood this week, and that incident happened August 22nd. Remarking that the killer was hurting and that hurt people hurt people. Now, he wasn't explaining, he was trying to excuse it. He was excusing it. And I guarantee you, if this was a white killer who had murdered a black person, the mental status would not have been even in question. They did it because Whitey hates Blackie. We all know it. We know what they would do. But instead, he says to Carlos Brown Jr., a black man with a lengthy criminal history, while what happened to that young woman was horrible and it's everybody's nightmare, yeah, that's why white people walk across the street, just so you know. Because we do have nightmares of experiences that happened in real world situations, Mr. Van Jones. We don't know why the man did what he did. It's not about cashless bail or no cash bails, he stated. Yeah, it is all about that, Van Jones. Freaking moron. Yes, it's about a system that lets violent people back out onto the street. It happens all the time. And you know where it happens all the time? In blue states, run by blue mayors, governors, and legislators who allowed this, who voted for cashless bail. This freaking animal was allowed to sign his name that he'd come back for a hearing. He was allowed on his own recognizance, and it's ROR, released on own recognizance. So when you hear that in one of these TV shows, he's out on ROR, that's what that means. You promise, right? You promise not to do anything. You promise to come back, right? And this guy's mother begged that he needs to be locked up. He's going to hurt someone. And that was from his own mother, who has to be brokenhearted that her son is off the rails. Who wouldn't be? And I'm sure it was from drug abuse. But still, it's sad. The mother having to come up and say, my son should be locked away. To have to be forced to admit that. That shows what strength that mother had. You know, they want to blame mommy or daddy, and the mother had more strength than 90% of the people out there who to say, yeah, he's not well, he needs to be locked up. And we had a system that released him, knowing he was violent, knowing he had a history, a criminal history that just wasn't a casual brush with the law. And while Van Jones said, no one mentioned the word race, white, black, or anything, Van Jones said. This wasn't about white and black. After killing the poor Ukrainian girl, In cold blood, Brown appeared to mutter, "I got that white girl," as he fled the scene of the crime, stated witnesses. I guess Van Jones wants us to believe that the killer is as big of a victim as the person he murdered. And again, this is where liberals want us to make crime normal. Oh, that's what happens. When people are hurting, they'll hurt other people. So we can't blame the victim, and we can't blame the murderer. This is why liberals really, I can't get on their logic scale. I can't get on their logic scale. I can't add up their math. Because you go, well, 2 plus 2 has to equal 4. And they go, oh, yeah. But 6 minus 2 equals 4, too. Yeah. Yeah, that's math. You're logical, I'm with you. And then when they go, no, I could show you how 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4. And that's when I go, thanks. Nope. You get people like that, and you get people that want to excuse and explain away why people do bad things. Well, the guy was nuts. Yeah, okay. Say he was nuts. Say they should never have released him from jail for armed robbery or assault or stealing. He should have been in jail 20 years still. But instead, he's out and he murdered. And this is where I say, where they go, well, it was a little crime. They committed a little crime. Do you think that that guy used a MetroCard to get on that train? I'm going to say no. So if he were stopped and arrested for jumping a turnstile, he would not have been able to murder someone. And that's where when a rock rolls down a mountain and it just starts off a little rock, and then it hits another rock and another rock and another rock and another rock, and now you have an avalanche. What the hell do you think these criminals are doing? And you want, well, they're poor, they can't afford bail. No, they're criminals. Criminals. And a violent criminal. Oh, you can't make bail? That's what the jail's for. The American voter is tired of it. And when I say American voter, I'm saying white American, black American, yellow Americans, red Americans. We're tired of the crime. The system's not broken. The people running the system is broken. The fix is easy. Get rid of those people. And that is, folks, our job in 2026 is to get the vote out and get these sick, mentally deranged government officials out of our lives and put common sense values back into play. Our children will not survive. This isn't about freedom. This is about survival. We have a drug problem in this nation. And why? Because people are making money from it. And you have a president who says, I'm going after it. I'm going after the countries that turned a blind eye to fentanyl, to cocaine. There's not a family in America that has not been touched by drugs. There's not a family in this country that doesn't have a relative that has a mental health issue. Donald Trump lost a brother to addiction. Joe Biden almost lost a son to addiction. So it's there. Rich, poor, affluent, or the regular ham and egger, the strap hanger. It's there. And you have a president that says, I'm going to do something about it. And what do the Democrats do? They fight with him on it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. They fight with him about crime and how to deal with it. Mayor of Chicago goes, we need more housing. We need more this. We gave you more housing. We gave you billions in education. We tore down those Morrissey projects or whatever. We tore them down. Put up beautiful apartments and everything for you. Fed you. Paid for your schools. And you have the highest murder rate. Actually, Baltimore had the highest rate. But another blue city. Look at Philadelphia. Go through Kensington. Go through areas of Chicago. You don't hear about the crime rate in Detroit anymore because they actually did something about it. It's there. Every city has crime. Every place has crime. But you have crime and punishment. You have a police force that is actively engaged in stopping it. And I would honestly say that probably 60% of the violent crimes committed are drug-related. Are drug-related. So, all right. We've been doing this for 50 minutes. The Supreme Court You had district judges that went against, Trump and saying you can't, the tariffs are illegal, or, we think it's probably illegal, so we're stopping it. Can't do it. And when you go to a court, and most of the appeals, you're not asking for a maybe answer. Is it yes or is it no? And when you get an answer back, well, it could be, no. Is it yes or is it no? If not, you can't answer it, and thus you take it to a higher court. Because you don't know the answer, you just go, well, I'm going to rule for you. I'm going to say that it is probably illegal, and but probably. That's what I want from a court for a verdict. Probably. It's unbelievable what is going on. And I understand the Supreme Court's reluctance to get involved. Like, we don't make laws. We don't set policy. That's not what we do. You make a law, and if it's challenged on the constitutionality of it, we'll address it. If it merits being addressed. Sometimes it's just common sense. No, they can do it. We're not wasting our time with it. Everyone knows this pen is white, and you go, no, it is not white. And they go, yeah, it is white, and we're not listening to you. Bye. And that's when the court refuses to hear something. It's usually because, well, one, it was not properly, went through all the channels that it could have gone through. It was not an emergency that needed to land on the desk of the court the next day. And you didn't properly seed out all alternatives. No, we're not going to hear it. We're going to let that, ruling stand, and that's it. Did a bad case arguing it. But the district courts are out of control, and you're going to have the Supreme Court make the decision on something they've already said you couldn't do, and yet they're still doing it. That's a problem. That's a problem. The case of the firing of the Federal Trade Commission, where the Federal Reserve board member, the Federal Reserve board member, she's going to be fired because the president has cause. The FTC persons, I didn't think that would hold up. And I'm still out on the fence with it when it goes through the whole process on whether or not the president can. He has the power to fire. He can do that. But it is within the parameters of blah, blah, blah. You have to have cause, and the cause can only be these 3 items. Being ineffective and ineffective is one of them. Insufficient or derelict. Or if you really do something naughty, yeah. And in the case of Cook, she did something naughty. And as such, she can go. They got her signature on a document where she misrepresented herself in that loan. And she could say, I made a mistake. And you're going to have people in the banking who handled that paperwork go, no, we asked you to sign a paper saying you attest that all that information is correct. And you said you did. And they make you do that again at closing. Anything change since we last did all this paperwork? Nope. Okay, you attest that. It's all good. So, she be bye-bye. Yep. And you got all these people, well, this other person did it. Yeah, no, yeah. We're not about keeping score here. This is about her. You want to bring up charges against that person? Bring them up. Bring them up. You're good to go. You know? You're good to go. So, is it a major problem? No. Did anyone get hurt? I mean, physically hurt from it? No. Was the loan not being repaid as at least that, as it was written for? We're all good. Did the bank ever check to see if she was really living there or he was really living there? No. Have you done that before in the past? Yes. But only during an audit. If it got pulled, we would have looked. Okay, what would you do if you found out that from the beginning of the documentation to today that was a falsehood? See, that's where it gets tricky. So, she's gone. The FTC people, board members, you'd have to prove that they were ineffective and that they weren't doing their job. But the president can't do that. He can make that claim to the Senate and go, you guys got to fire them. Then they could go to the Senate and go, no, here's what I was supposed to do. Here's what I was doing. Trump just doesn't like me. Well, I don't think you should be fired because people don't like you. All right, with that, I'm going to say goodbye. I gave you an hour here. That's what I like doing. Give me an hour of my time. And share. I'm glad we could share this time together. And then we can discuss tomorrow some major items that are coming up. There are going to be some big ones today. Leave a comment. If you haven't joined or subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. It helps. in how I can place things around. I'm also on Rumble, John Fat Cat. I'm also on Facebook. If you go John A. Costa, you'll find me. And I put it up there, links back, and I'm just trying to get eyeballs here. You don't have to agree with me. Except Bob in New York, you really should. You'd be a lot healthier. And from there, I'm going to say give it to a charity. Just make sure it's a legit charity. Don't be a victim trying to help victims. It's not a good idea. If you can give to a food bank, give to a food bank. But while you're at the food bank, ask them, what else do you need other than food? And if it's clothing, if it's, paper, if it's, feminine products, the next one, give some of that. If it's clothing, go to your friends, go to your relatives. Hey, Betty is now 16 years old, and if you got clothes when she was 13 years old, can we give it to a charity? And, help those people out. I'm big with the food banks because, you go, well, 4 cans of food. What is 4 cans? Well, 4 cans of food to people that don't have 4 cans of food. That's a biggie. Say a prayer. Prayer works. Prayer works. Not all prayers are answered in the way you'd think you'd want it answered. And I tell this to people. It's like when you're a kid. Not even a kid. It happens to adults. You have a breakup with a significant other, and God, I wish I was back with her. Wish I was back with her. Well, and then you meet someone, and you have a child. And then you have to ask yourself, hold it, if God answered my prayer that I made to be with that person and not this person, this beautiful little baby wouldn't be here today. Maybe answering all my prayers is not the answer. But I can pray, and then that way, you think, and then you thank him for leading you where he led you. Important. All right, and with that, I'm going to attempt to fade to black here, and then catch you all later. So, as I fade to black.